Today we're going to talk about the statistics of network marketing. This is part 2 of our series. Hi, today we're going to be talking again about the statistics of network marketing. This is part 2 in the series. I have a guest with me. His name is Ian Chandler, and we're going to go through back and forth through a document that someone wrote way back in 2000 and, well, this says 2011, but I believe the actual one was like, I don't know,
maybe a decade
1999?
before that,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And so he calls it the abysmal numbers of MLM. And so Ian has a background in math, and we're just going to kind of go step by step and just free talk this thing through because, well, you're going to see for yourself, because we've been sitting here chatting for a couple hours, and meanwhile, my cameraman's been sitting back there on his phone. So here we go. So Ian, thank you for coming. And
Tim, it's a pleasure as always, sir.
Okay, so give us a little bit about your background.
Sure.
In education.
So first off, I was a skeptic to network marketing. I was raised in a family that prized hard work in a job, and entrepreneurship was equivalent to like leaving the family in terms of dumb ideas you could do. And so didn't have a great opinion of network marketing by any means. In fact, much of what we're going to talk about today, I would have believed on face value wholeheartedly when I first started. I came into the industry by way of employment. I took a job. I speak Chinese, having lived about half my life in Asia. And so I took a job in a customer service role, trying to get as far away from what I thought would be the network marketing industry as I could.
So why did you say yes to get a job in a network marketing company?
It paid the bills. They had a great 401k options. They had great schooling options. It was a great option for me as a student at the time. Went into that job, again, as a skeptic, and 15 years later, not only have I failed to find any validity in this and other debunking types of documents, I've come to grow and love the opportunity for what it is. I mean, there's more opportunity in network marketing as an entrepreneurial, whether it be part-time or full-time efforts, than I believe there is in any other freestanding opportunity out there, because the barriers to entry are so low. The skill sets required to learn to be successful are so accessible. It literally is get your 10,000 hours and you're going to end up being that stat at the very top.
What do you mean 10,000 hours? Hang on a minute.
Sure.
Before we get to that, give your education background and what was the transition?
Sure.
What was the transition from customer service rep over into what you now do so that you can give some credibility on stats?
For sure. So did a degree in, did an MBA, so focused from the University of Utah, studied very much on business, but I found a niche. Data and data science specifically became kind of my go-to strength and contribution in the business environment. And so through that—
Data science.
Data science. There's a scientific method to extracting valid data versus the art of giving BS data. And so you're taught how to get accurate data. You're taught what is the validity of data. You're taught about how to use the right tools when to assess the data, and it comes to any sort of a reasonable conclusion. And so—
Hang on just a second.
Yeah.
I'd like to read something.
Please, by all means.
Is MLM a profitable business opportunity? It's a question. And if so, for whom? Just do the math. The numbers don't lie. Can numbers lie?
It depends on what type of science you apply. If you are taking pseudoscience and pseudo data, which is snippets of the picture that fit the narrative you're trying to construe, well, it's Mark Twain, it's what he says. There's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. You can make a stat tell any story you want, provided you hide or conceal or skew the definitions of the data you're looking for, such that they're hidden behind the curtain. But if everyone is on the same page of what the definitions are, where the data is coming from, its reliability, its validity, etc., yes, there is a science to getting accuracy that would not be otherwise misconstrued. But oftentimes we see people take shortcuts. They have a narrative or an issue they're trying to push a lot more than they're trying to get to the truth. And to go back to my background, 15 years of seeing the data is what it's taken for me to overcome my inherent skepticism and bias. And so I'm looking at numbers. I'm looking at what people are earning. I'm looking at what they're making. I'm looking at what they're spending. I'm looking at how long it takes for people to achieve different levels of success, the amount of time and effort put into it. It's data mining. It's a gold mine of information that, frankly speaking, is not public. It's not available to people out there. And so I have a strong concern when the first phrase that comes out of a PhD candidate, sir, with all due respect, I don't know who gave you your PhD. I should hope that they would be looking to rescind it based on the abysmal numbers that you've presented in the form of truth.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that? Let me tell you how I feel about that, Tim.
Okay.
We're going to go through some of these numbers, and I'm telling you, I get fired up just because it's not only biased, it's ridiculously biased. You would take any statistician on the planet and try to read this with any amount of sobriety, and they couldn't make it through without either crying or laughing, crying on behalf of their profession and laughing at the fact that this man got a PhD.
All right, so we're going to go through some of the specifics as much as we can. One of the first things that I flagged here is that failure and loss rates for MLMs are not comparable with legitimate small businesses, which have been found to be profitable for 39% over the lifetime of the business, whereas less than 1% of MLM participants profit.
Well, you got some loaded terms in there. First of all, what is the definition of profit? Let's assume that he's just saying money out versus money in, and he's saying that 99% of people fail. Boy, I'd love to know where he's getting his data. John, if you can show me where you're getting your numbers and data, other than valid resources and a handful of CPAs that are your friends, I would love to compare that, because the numbers that I pull from the last
real data,
real people from the last two companies that I worked for is inherently, fundamentally, it's not 1%, it's probably 30 or 40, but it goes to your definition of profit. We're talking money out of pocket versus money in.
Sir, right behind you, this is the amount of commitment for someone who would be given a loan.
Yep.
From the Small Business Administration.
Okay.
The average loan is $350,000. What is that person's commitment level to their business compared to someone who, let's say, spent $50 on a starter kit, and maybe they bought some products to try or to use? What would you think is the commitment level change or difference?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the challenge you have with network marketing is you get people who participate or decide to buy product for any number of reasons, not the least of which is they're attracted by the product or service that's being sold. Mm-hmm. If you go to Burger King and you buy a Whopper, and all of a sudden Burger King in its statistics said, oh, there we go, there's a new business franchise owner opportunity, and they threw you into the number of franchisees who don't make money, I'm going to ask the question, why did you include the customer as a franchisee earner, thus pulling down my average earnings of all my franchisees worldwide? Just because I love a burger doesn't mean I have the intent to build a business.
So, if I were to combat that, I would come back and I would say something. Remember, he's looking at data, okay? If I were to come back and say, no. Everybody joins network marketing because they want to make $1 million.
Well, if that was the assumption, then, sir, with all due respect, can you live in the modern millennia? I think those types of pitches have gone the way of the dodo. I'm not here to say that that type of nefarious business building or expectation, false expectation setting doesn't occur, but not at the rate, I'm positive, of which it has in the past. And here's why. Two things. Number one, the internet. Number two, millennials. As a millennial, I don't buy into the fodder of people on get-rich-quick schemes. That was part of my skepticism that my dad raised me up as a good educated kid growing up. So millennials, we don't buy into those nearly as much, number one. Number two, the internet has made debunking any sort of wishes of get rich quick or any of that so quickly that if you're not authentic in nowadays network marketing or any business for that matter, if you're not providing true value, good luck trying to stay in business at all. So the whole idea that everyone is participating because they were promised $1 million for doing nothing, I think those days are long gone, to be frank. And if they're all around, I'll be the first to get in line and say, John, I'm sorry that you experienced that, because that has not been my experience in network marketing. The people who take those underhanded approaches to building their business neither succeed nor last any amount of time in the industry. It really takes solid effort, good support, good training, and 10,000 hours to become proficient and to become very successful. But anybody who puts in the time and effort can do it, and that's what the numbers have proven to me. It's amazing to see that. But what I think he's getting caught up on is a small business versus don't mix your definitions up. And to answer your question, Tim, you never really know the intent of people from the numbers until you see behavior. Okay?
Bingo.
What I love about network marketing is we have more data to be mined. Network marketing is essentially just an IT company with products and services all wrapped around it. Everything they do is measured. And because of that, I can go and spend hours looking up and finding and answering questions to any question you might have. Why are some people successful? Why do people fail? What's the retention rate? If you give me a statistic, I can give you in 10 minutes an answer with statistically scientific, valid numbers and information, not conjecture that I think he got his title right, abysmal numbers. The numbers in here are abysmal. So I would love to go through some of those and debunk them, because there's nothing worse than somebody who's just uninformed or falsely informed.
Yeah. And in my own, and I'm just going to put an opinion here. In my own experience, if someone, and he admits in here that he tried to build a company and he quit, he tried for a year and he quit. And my experience is that a lot of times people who don't do it or whatever, they then need to make that thing that they failed at wrong.
Yes.
Right? Like they really,
to justify that they're not a
gotta
loser.
Throw rocks at that thing because it couldn't possibly have been him. Right? It had to be that the whole thing is flawed. Right? And if you can make that out to be, then he is an adequate victim so that he doesn't have to take responsibility for the actions required to succeed. And I'm sure it really annoyed him to see, let's say, a single
He probably
mom,
did put in good effort.
Yeah. To see a single mom walk across the stage, reaching that highest level, and the person, like lives in a trailer park in St. Louis, Missouri, and now is successful, and he had a lot of knowledge. And so, to his credit,
he tried to walk the walk.
Yeah, like, and like, I don't want one of those. I know statistics from your perspective.
Yep.
I don't want one of them because every person for me is a human being.
Yeah.
And so, but I know that people throw rocks at what they fail at and they don't want it. I remember a guy who went through Spec Ops, Navy Spec Ops. And and the attrition rate is probably just like every other statistic, is horrible. And I remember somebody saying to me, he's like, man, I just, like he had quit. And then I ran into him at a store, and he said, and he goes, yeah, like I was just cold. I'm like, dude, we're all cold. It really had a really horrible, like you were cold all the time. So I think that has a lot in explanation, and that I can understand that, like being an educated person and then not succeeding at something, it hurts. And so you got to kind of attack back at what hurt you.
But the irony is on that, Tim, is you see a huge difference between people who try and fail versus those who don't even try, who unfortunately he's wrapped into this just like that Burger King customer. So you're going to give me a number here, and I'm about to light it on fire because it's just bad math.
Okay. So, all right, I don't want to read anything specific about a particular comp plan, okay? And so I'm going to kind of dance around here. But it says total percentages of distributors at levels of blank, which is about, I don't know, 3 steps up an 8-step process and above is 1.4%. And if 10-year attrition is 90%, retention is 10%. Therefore, 0.0104 times 0 times 10 equals, and here's the number.
0.1%.
0.1%. This means that less than 0.1% of distributors would have earned a profit. And he was being liberal.
As he states. Sir, with all due respect, I struggle with this statement on a number of levels. First of all, you're assuming that somebody is at that title and above. And I'm not going to talk about that title or how much that makes. Tim, can I tell you in 15 years of going through data, there are many reasons why people join network marketing companies, many reasons why they quit. Number one reason why they quit is they weren't good at it and they didn't want to continue putting in the time and effort to get good at it. They quit. That's why I call it quitting. They didn't fail, they quit. Okay? In this scenario, you're talking about somebody who's already at the 1%. And these are people who are not failing.
They're making around
These are people
$4,000 a month.
Who are
$2,000 to $4,000 a month
in that company, but at 1% in other companies, that could be $5,000 to $10,000 a month. It really comes down to the different companies and distribution. So these are people who are making, even at his ridiculous spending amounts of, he was saying $1,500 a month. P.S. I don't know of any millennial who's spending $1,500 a month on network marketing who's doing it part-time or is doing it kind of with their foot in the water.
That's building. They may be sitting down and buying stuff and calling it for their business.
Yeah, a fair point. You do get professionals who invest in things like leads, they invest in things like tools to support their massive teams. But that's when they're already making great money. Yeah. These are people who are making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. And he's assuming their attrition is going to be 90% over 10 years. And therefore their retention is only 10%. But no one's going to see the money on the table, have it there to be earned, and then say, no, I'm going to quit. Where is he getting a 90% attrition rate over a 10-year period for people who are making money? This one, with every MLM where such data was available, I'd like to know where he got his data, given that he's not employed by a company, and given that no one would be readily divulging of the information, me being the exception because I got nothing to hide. So John, if you want to come look at my numbers, happy to share my numbers, but I don't know where you got yours. He's saying that the loss rate was at least 99%. Again,
liberal assumptions.
Liberal assumptions. Well, your liberal assumption was wrong. You assumed that people who are making money are going to quit to the tune of 90% in 10 years. That doesn't happen. They don't leave. There's no reason for them to go if they're making money.
Okay. So
it's frustrating.
Then another one here is my research and that of other non-MLM analysts leads to the conclusion that MLM does not qualify as a legitimate business if less than 1% profit and 95% or more quit in 10 years across the entire MLM industry. There must be something fundamentally wrong with MLM as a business model.
So Tim, the industry as a whole did $200 billion US in revenue in 2018. That's huge. That's a lot of money. The average payout by companies in commissions is 40%. So that's real simple math. $80 billion was paid to somebody. And you're telling me that less than 1% profit. Well, run the math on that. That's a lot of people who are failing. But I'm going to come back to, are you throwing in, and this comes back to, do you care if I use the whiteboard?
Oh, absolutely.
A basic
You want a
statistical.
blank screen?
Yeah, blank screen, please.
Okay.
This goes back to a fundamental principle in statistics that we call the Pareto Principle. And it's based on Pareto. It's, yeah, a statistician, it was his last name.
Okay.
Deal with it.
Okay.
So you can take anything. You can take height of people. You can take the amount of money that people make. You can take, name it. If it's related to people and it can be measured, you're going to find this curve everywhere. It's ubiquitous, okay? So let's just take the amount of money that individuals have, and here's the first person. Here's the second person. This is the richest guy in the planet. We'll call him Jeff Bezos of Amazon, who's currently worth $165 billion.
Okay, so that's Jeff here?
That's Jeff right there.
Okay.
Next, you got, I don't know, Tim Cook, Warren Buffett. You got all these people. And here's what happens. If you took the entire population of the United States of America and put their dollar income up here and you drew a line that made a curve, here's what it would look like. Right there. And that would go all the way down to zero, okay? This curve is what we call the Pareto Principle. If you looked at 20% of the people, okay, so here's 80% of the people over here, 20% of the people over there, 20% of the people would own 80% of the wealth. 1% in America happens to own 40% of the wealth. So the other 19 only get the other 40%. This is also the same principle in employment. 20% of the people do 80% of the work. 80% of the work gets done in 20% of the time. 20-80 is the 80-20 rule that applies to many, 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 many things. Okay? In network marketing, there's no exception.
So that's not just a generalization. You're saying that there's an entire principle that you're able to draw a curve, and that's the rule.
This curve applies to everything. This is what I showed was wealth in America. I could put up, and the exact same curve would apply for people who make money in network marketing industries. Okay?
And so could you, I don't want to interrupt.
No, you're good, but something really interesting happens. Very interesting happens between the 80 and the 20 in network marketing. Right? Because where John and everybody else who's trying to say, I hate the industry, what they're trying to do is assume everybody who bought a product is part of the entire curve. And so they're saying, well, look, 80% of these people aren't making any money. And by the way, the numbers are 80, it ain't 95. Yes, in my company and in the past company, 80% of the people who purchased product did not make any sort of money at all. But Tim, that was never their intention. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Maybe they went in and said, I'm open to the opportunity of earning money, but they certainly didn't do anything to manifest that intent.
Guys, this is such an important point, okay? I have seen it where, because I've been in long enough, I will be sitting down with somebody and the person really, really wants to make money. And because, like I was just, somebody was heading into retirement and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay. And so he wants to join and he thinks by joining that's the step, right? And then when it becomes, okay, let's begin to work and things, I know exactly what you're talking about, because sometimes it's just a lottery mentality that if I buy a ticket, then there's a chance, right? And then there's other people who will come in and kind of like, they'll say, hey, you know what? I'm ready to get to work. What do I need to do? What's the first step? What's the second step? And things like that.
Which is perfect.
So I know what you're talking about with that mentality where some people just hope. They buy it on hope.
But let's face it, network marketing companies in general have amazing products that you can't get on the shelf anywhere. It's why they're in this channel versus any other business channel, because you need a story to tell why it's amazing and then to be able to share their story and their transformations, etc. But what you find is once they've gone and done anything to cross that barrier and become one of the 20% who actually try, who actually do something, okay, then you're looking at, with all due respect, Mr. Taylor, Dr. Taylor. He's one of the people who tried and failed. But that number isn't 80%. That's not even close to anywhere close to 95 or 99% that he's throwing that out there. Show me your data. I've got an entire laptop full of nerd data right here that I can prove and substantiate that if people put in the time and effort, and I don't know by their intent, all I know is by their actions. When you sell a product to a customer, when you sell a product to a member, when you recruit a business partner to help you sell products, when that business building activity occurs, ding, 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 you show up on my radar, and now I can start tracking you. And that is when I'm able to see what it takes for you to go from a paycheck, which is the average in my company, of around $500 a month. The median is around $150 a month. Where they go from there all the way to whatever they want. And there is no shortcut to the process of building that business. But at the same time, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. I'm going to break some of these things down because the guy's kind of nerdy. Okay, so what he said that I understand, and you're going to correct me.
Sure.
Okay, so what you're saying is that over here is the 80%.
20%.
Okay, this is the 20%.
Yep,
okay,
sorry.
All right, I'm going to do something. All right, I'm going to change this up a little bit.
Oh, I like that.
We're not going to lose that. We're just going to move it over. Okay? And because I believe that what you're talking about here is brilliant. What I saw you draw was a couple of very wealthy people, and then you did this to it, and there's a curve.
Yes, sir.
And you said that somewhere right in here is an 80%, a 20%.
Of the people.
And over here is an 80% of the people.
Correct.
And that right there is what the majority in network marketing are. Correct? That they're here until they do particular actions that move them into a 20% category.
Correct.
And that step is they sell products or they sponsor a new rep.
Correct.
But once they get over here, they hit your data. In other words, they move out of this group and into this group. And for those of you who watched part 1, I told you this step. You generate leads, you set appointments, you do presentations, and that's what moves you.
That's right.
Mr. Math doesn't move you. Buying a kit doesn't move you.
Nope.
Buying product doesn't move you. What moves you is actually production, actual production. Okay, so once you get over here, now continue with that, because everything that he said is just absolutely incredible. I just have to halt you. Sorry about that.
No, you're good, you're good, you're good. What happens is the curve changes. So if you can do this again, work your magic and make that small and zoom out again.
You bet.
I want to redraw what the curve looks like on that side of the equation. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Same thing. This is the amount of money you make, and this is the number of people. We'll put the top person at the left. Here is what that curve looks like. Much more gradual. And these are people who are actively engaged.
So these are the 20%.
The 20%ers.
So you just drilled into the 20%ers.
Correct. And literally there is nothing preventing somebody from becoming this or even higher and raising that curve. There literally is no barrier. That's what ultimately convinced me this model as a business works, Tim.
Wow.
Is that I saw the data and said, wait a minute, we've got people who have no high school background who are achieving these levels. Yes. We have people who are PhDs and don't have abysmal math problems. They are very good at math and their success. Yes. You cannot predict from somebody's background who will end up to here. What you can find is the commonalities of what they do, who they learn from, the types of personalities that they're willing to adopt and adapt to and become. And most importantly, they put in the time and the effort, and there's no shortcut for that. But I promise you, from what I've seen in the numbers, anybody can do it a lot easier than they would have a chance to be in the NBA. If you're not 7 feet tall, your odds of getting into the NBA are slim to nothing. If you didn't come from the right family, have the right race.
If the requirement to get into the NBA was 7 feet, then I'm out. But if the requirement is that I do something that I could control.
10,000 hours.
There you go.
Isaiah Thomas, 5'6", and in the NBA.
There you go. Now, what do you say, and I'm sorry to change directions on you here, but you caused something here. Some people say that these people are praying, not prayer, but predatory.
Yes.
And requires all of these people in order for them to make all of that big money. And it's just this big, vicious, stabbing, bleeding people and preying on people. What does your data science show you?
It shows me a couple things. First of all, anecdotally, there are people who take low-balled, very poor approaches at any endeavor in life. So if I were to try to say that 100% we have no bad people in network marketing, that would be a lie. Absolutely. Some companies tend to be a little more pro that type of approach. But Tim, it takes about 10 minutes of YouTube watching to sniff out what type of a company what type of a culture that company is subjugating. So first of all, the average consumer isn't easily as duped as John Taylor may think they are. Maybe it's the gift of him having a PhD, assuming the whole world around him is an idiot and therefore subject to being duping. But if you were duped,
yeah.
So I appreciate his feedback. To answer that though, first is, the second that I would come back to is 80% and 20%, couldn't I make the same argument about the economy? Doesn't Amazon, in its wealth distribution model, give Jeff Bezos the most, and give his CEO the next most, and give the executive levels the next most, and people who want... I know of no performance-based industry that doesn't follow this curve in terms of distribution. And if the term on the backs of the 80%,
yeah.
Okay, it sounds bad, but think about what it really means. It means I've got a customer base who likes the products. If they didn't like it, they wouldn't be purchasing it. And John's going to come back and say, no, they're only buying it to participate in the model. The math doesn't hold up to that. It doesn't hold up to that. Most companies, the last two that I've been in, customer sales is roughly 30 to 50% of business. These are people who didn't even buy a kit. They just consume the product. So what about them? Okay, so that's not 80%. Now I'm down to 50% of revenue. Of the people who bought a kit, and they might just want to have an option in the future, and they say, maybe I will build a business, maybe I won't, I don't know. Maybe that's where you're getting hung up, John, because there is a difference. In network marketing, I can fall in love with my Big Mac, with my Whopper, and I can go start a business opportunity as a result of it. I don't have to invest $500,000 into a franchise. I can simply say, a customer can come and say, Tim, I just lost 10 pounds, or whatever the opportunity is. How do I get involved with this, man? Can you teach me? If you have a willing teacher, a plan to follow, a business opportunity that pays for performance, not for participation, the sky's the limit. And so for the 80%, I'd say no one's holding you back from becoming the 20%.
Yeah.
Do what they do and you can have what they have. Don't do what they don't do and don't complain about what you don't have.
It's awesome. Okay, let me show you something.
Sure.
So when you came in,
yes, sir.
I had this up, and you go, I know that curve. Okay, so for those of you who haven't watched the part one of this, let me walk you through. It's just real quick. This is IRS data. It is the number, like, where does income come from? Does it come from a job, or does it come from a business or partnership? And what this showed, and I found it very interesting, is this is about up to $5,000, and then there's up to 10,000, and then up to 15,000. It goes all the way up. And you see most of all the people who make, let's call it below $30,000 or $40,000, all of them they're getting all their income from an employer. But as this curve, and as you drew so well, as this curve goes up, right here is going to be about $100,000. So people who make $100,000 or more, you can see the curve start going up. And then here is $1 million. And so 73% of millionaires own their own business.
And that's where they get their money from.
That's where they're getting their money from. And it goes up to 10 million. And that's not much of a curve, right? In other words, there's your 80% kind of a piece. And so do you have anything at all? Like, I believe that is the epitome. And so in my view, if you're going to choose to receive like 1099 income, right?
Yeah.
Then the way that you got to do that, like, one, you can go out, and I'm not discouraging this. One, you can go out and you can start your own business. You got to start your own business. And I don't care where. If I'm an advocate of anything, is own your life. And if you're going to own your life, you've got two choices in business. One would be you can try to go into like a franchise. He was really
small
touting
business,
franchises.
sure,
Small businesses.
Sure.
And there you just are going to have to, there is no messing around. Mm-mm. You don't mess around with that like you do network marketing. You're going to have to get in and go all in, because you're going to have $350,000 on average of some sort of a debt in order to erect that business up, or you're going to give away your business to venture capitalists, right? Yep. Because you loan the money, you get it that way. Or network marketing. And in network marketing, all companies will, there are variations, and, how to choose a company is not really a taught kind of a thing out there. But network marketing offers a scenario to where without a lot of risk, in my opinion.
Yep.
Not a lot of risk. Okay. Yep. So I was part-time when I first joined in. And so I feel as though that you have anything you want to add before we kind of close out here?
I do. You see this curve right there? It's beautiful for a number of reasons. The white space, the blank space, is what they're getting paid in income. That's the whole point.
The blank space is what they're
getting paid from their boss. This is what the boss is paying them, and it ain't a lot. It's $5,000 a year. It's this. This negative space is what the boss is giving you. Why not participate?
Wow.
Why not participate in this side of the equation? And it's not rocket science. If you want a JOB and you want to make $1 million a year, it's not a very likely thing to occur. What excites me about this, though,
those have got to be presidents of companies.
Yes, CEOs, presidents, and the percentage of actually hitting that is, I don't even want to go through the likelihood of that. It's a lot less than this.
You mean to tell me that in network marketing, the odds are better than that?
The odds of landing on the moon as a NASA employee are a whole lot less than making $1 million in network marketing. The odds of becoming the president of any country as a full-time politician are a lot less than making $1 million in network marketing. I could go on and on and on. I have lots of stats we can show in the footnotes of this. But I want to point out this curve is beautiful to me for one very important reason. Okay? That right there is the income earning curve of every network marketer, and there is no replacement. Okay? I don't know of any network marketer who starts up here and stays at 80K from day one. It just doesn't happen. And so maybe John is saying because they didn't start at 80K, that they're a failure. Well, let me explain to you how employment works. Better degree, higher initial form of pay. But why do I, as an employer, love hiring people? Because it is my cheapest way to get labor. Okay, this sounds horrible, but when an owner can get 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 times in profits what he pays to his average income employee, It tells you a little bit about the disposability of wages among employers. I would rather hire because it's cheap. Now, I love distributors and paying distributors because I think differently now than I did 15 years ago. My MBA teachers would have told me as a boss, use distributors to build up the network, fire all of your distributors, and go retail once your brand recognition has been established.
Many companies have done that.
Many nefarious companies. I believe that is a terrible, terrible business strategy, albeit it may be a great one from the profitability side of things. But what we see in the industry is executives and owners and distributors alike are much more moving towards a partnership mentality as opposed to a competition, me against you, because they're realizing that that's what's going to be long term.
Yeah.
And this curve, though, is what is what everyone's going to go through. So you're going to start, and people will make fun of you, and they'll say you're stupid, and they'll point out abysmal numbers like this and try to say, Tim, what are you thinking? I thought you were better
false
than this.
numbers.
But once they transition into that 20%, the upside in network marketing is unparalleled. And that's what the number proves every single time. It was when I saw my first example of a kid my age. His name is Michael Callejas, great guy. He does network marketing with integrity. He does it with a lot of fun. And he was my age. And after 3 years, he was making, I won't even give you the numbers he was making. It was great, great, great income at the time. And it opened my eyes. And I looked and I said, I want to see this guy's paycheck overtime. And it was this curve. And he started making that. And I realized something triggered, something happened right there. And he got the education, he got the training, he got the mojo, the confidence that comes with putting in the time and effort. So if I were to take anything away from this, it would be this. There's no shortcut to success in any endeavor you do. But if you're willing to put in the time and effort, I'm sorry, Dr. John Taylor's numbers don't scare me as a millennial because I can see right through the BS.
Nice. Thank you.
Tim, thank you, sir.
Please do me a favor, comment down below. I really want to get your feedback on this. I want to find out from you. Number one, how did this sit with you? Okay, so this curve is one of the main things, is that there's an 80-20 rule everywhere. And John Taylor, what he was doing is that he was basically saying everybody who ate a Whopper is a business statistic, and the amount of people who are on a franchise are having to compete with all of these people, and it looks very predatory. All right. So, but if you pull that up a little bit into, if you just got a customer, if you just got into that first step of it, you're now on your way. You're over into that 80% or the 20%.
Yep.
Okay. So that was a big, huge aha for me, as well as just having you look at some of these things and just define, whoa, what's profit? What's this? How in the world is he doing this? You know, that sort of a thing. And so give us comments down below. Give us a thumbs up if you like it and you appreciate us doing this video. And again, thank you, Ian, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.